From the Score Complex in Racine, Wisconsin, ESPN3's coverage of the 2018 USAFL National Championships of Australian Football continues. This is the Division I Women's National Championship between the two-time defending champion San Francisco Iron Maidens and the Seattle Grizzlies. Brian Barish back here with you, and I'm pleased to be joined to you now by the voice of VFLW in Victoria for RSN Carnival, Peter Holden. And Pete, we've got a team that a lot of people expected to be here against an upstart.
Indeed, it's the first time, I think, in something like 8 years when in a deciding match it has not featured the Denver Lady Bulldogs. So, could San Francisco get the three-peat? Or maybe a new chapter will be written in USAFL history.
We'll find that out in 40 minutes' time. Some great athletes taking to the field for both sides. We'll get to them in just a minute. But for more info on how these two teams got here, they got through pool play and they got to the semifinals. And for more of that, here's Gil Griffin, the third man of our
Brian.
broadcast
Let's
team.
talk a little bit about the road to how the Iron Maidens got here and the Minnesota Freeze got here. The San Francisco Iron Maidens, or the Freeze, were eliminated earlier as the Iron Maidens won 10-7 in an earlier match. And in the other match, a big surprise, as the Seattle Grizzlies knocked off the Denver Lady Bulldogs 12-8, and it's the first time, Brian, in 9 years that Denver has not finished in the top two. So a real pitched battle going here today, and the weather conditions may play a factor in a very low-scoring grand final.
Thank you very much, Gil. And I'll tell you what, the low scoring has been a feature of this women's tournament. Of course, the last two games that have decided the Division I National Championship have been low scoring. San Francisco winning 9-6 2 years ago, and then last year winning 14-6 over the Denver Lady Bulldogs.
But there's one thing worthy to note. Both of those occasions you're playing on hot temperatures on fast tracks, that being in San Diego and Sarasota. We know how warm the weather is down in Southern California and Florida. Now we're playing in the north of the country. We're playing here in Racine, Wisconsin. And yes, Racine, Wisconsin, the temperatures are quite significantly different to the south of the country. The ground is, well, probably not as smooth as what we've seen in San Diego and Sarasota. It's going to be a bit more tiring on the legs. It comes down to, I guess, control of the football. It comes down to pure skill rather than speed, as we've seen in the last couple of years.
One thing that must be said, Peter, heading into this game, the Seattle Grizzlies are hurting for numbers. They will have just enough to field a full side. The Iron Maidens have a bench. The Grizzlies, in spite of the fact that they still had that short best last time, they still managed to outlast the Bulldogs.
Indeed, and I think everyone was surprised by that. To be fair, the Bulldogs had a number of new rookies into their side. They still had plenty of their veterans, the Castanacs. They had Mesa down there. They had Thexton as well, Rona, who scored a couple of goals for them. So that was still a big sculpt for Seattle to knock off. And Seattle as a club, it's an amazing story. 2 years ago at Sarasota, they sent 3 players to team up with Portland to play in Division 2, where we have combination sides. They made their debut as a standalone squad last year, where they managed to win a game when they beat the Montreal Angels in Division 1 last year and ran Minnesota pretty close. They got thumped by San Francisco in their first ever game. But this year in pool play, they ran San Francisco pretty close. They only held San Francisco to a goal for the first half before the Iron Maidens pull away. And considering the confidence they've got coming off that victory against the Lady Bulldogs, who knows? They might be in the mood for another ball over.
We see the San Francisco Iron Maidens taking to the ground now. Let's talk about some of their players. They have mostly an American side. They do have a couple of Aussies, but it all starts in the middle with their co-founder and their captain, Jessica Estrada.
Yeah, Estrada, it's interesting to see that move of her to the middle of the ground. Last year, particularly on the hot track in San Diego, she was played more out of the forward pocket. They've elected to put her in the engine room along with Elise Gallagher. They've had to do that to make up for the loss of one player who normally plays at half-back and moves into the midfield, being Bevan English. She's had a hand injury, and she's been unable to play this tournament.
And was probably their best player, in my opinion, in the last Nationals. As for Seattle, they have a number of athletes. They're still a fairly raw side, but one of my favorite players to watch is Amelia Carr, who almost single-handedly saved the game with some great defensive stops against Denver.
And we know that she's a crossover athlete as well. She had played, of course, in women's gridiron. She's taken the skills to Australian rules football. And in fact, she got invited to Melbourne last month as part of a crossovers camp to see if she could be a potential draftee in the AFL women's competition, which is a semi-professional competition back home in Australia.
It is. And, there's a lot of real growth. We were talking about it with Grilla just a little bit. 10 teams now in the Professional League and AFLW, and of course the VFLW, which is the state league, and state leagues around Australia growing as well.
Indeed, even such as Hawthorn, who won the VFLW Premiership, which I guess you call it a minor league premiership using American terminology, it's semi-professional environment. They pay players to play. We know there's a lot of women outside of college sports in America that want to continue playing sports, but it's all amateur. There's very few semi-professional opportunities. They have a chance to play this game and look at moving to Australia to play the sport semi-professionally.
And there's a number of players who have up that not only here on these two teams, but also up and down the side. As we get set back in the middle of the ground here, you see the umpires there in the green jumpers, in the green uniforms, and we have 3 field umpires. We also have boundary umpires, which will throw the ball back into play, and of course we have the goal umpires. And back in the day, Peter, back in the 1980s, a lot of viewers on ESPN might recognize how the goal umpires dress with the hats and the suits and the pants and the finger signals, of course.
And I used to do that actually in my late teen years. I was actually a goal umpire back in what was a suburban competition called the Footscray District Football League. So I think I still got somewhere, though I don't think I'll fit in it anymore. My old white lab coat that we used to wear as goal umpires.
I'd kind of like to see you try. And I used to do that too here in Philadelphia as part of the USAFL. And of course, if you want to learn more about the USAFL, about the game, about the teams, maybe find a team in your area, maybe start a team in your area, you want to check out USAFL.com and on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Keep an eye on the ruck here for Seattle. You can see we're in the black jumper with the green yoke. That is April Lewis. She actually did a tryout day with the Brisbane Lions last month in Queensland, Australia.
All right, just about underway. Division I Grand Final. Will San Francisco three-peat, or will we have a new Queens of the Oval? We are underway. Here in the middle of the ground, the Iron Maidens in the blue, orange, and gray jumpers with the Golden Gate Bridge going from left to right. Alessandra Alcocer for Seattle went to play soccer, but here comes Ryan Johnson, 50 meters out for Seattle, and tracking back, not taking the mark, was Millie Bruce. As she picks it up again, Bruce tried to send that one forward, and she got harried, and down she goes, and the umpire circles and will call for a ball up. So the ball up will happen now. Here's Brett Brower, number 4. She suffered a pretty bad neck injury last year at the International Cup in Melbourne. She has come all the way back. She played 4 games this year for San Francisco. They are excited to have her back. Maggie Owen will shovel that one back to Julie Marks, looking for Caitlin Lutz. Lutz from 50 meters out, high up in the air, not taken by Carr. Ball goes to ground, rumbles around looking for Latia Holmes. Holmes bootlegs around. She handballs it into Alcocer as Seattle looks to release.
And she comes to the broadcast side position. Bouncing football. Sarah Maguillon is chasing it there for the San Francisco Iron Maidens. Couldn't get there. Tackle laid on by Nicole McKenzie. In goes the player in Maguillon once more time. Ball spilled out. Opportunity now for the Seattle Grizzlies as they go to the wing position. Only to go as far as Margaret Leone. Leone now gets on the right boot. Decides to get going quickly. Dropping the football there is Peterson. Had to go back in and get it again for the Grizzlies. She did. She went to centre wing, but a strong mark being taken there by the number 7, Margaret Leone, for the San Francisco Iron Maidens, who, of course, are looking for a three-peat, their 3rd championship in a row.
And Leone, the Michigan native, sends that one by. Queen Bowles, Millie the Magnificent, Bruce. Here's Valerie Barbara Axelm. She skitters it through. Bruce is able to keep that one inside 50. She's going to send that one in, but only as far as Stephanie Peterson, but she couldn't hang on to it, and out of the back they come through the middle of the ground. Marks picks that one off, has a head of steam, kicks that one inside 50 into the cow paddock. Nobody there. Peterson, but now she's pressured by Brower, who's on her hammer, and now they'll lock that one in, and they're everyone down mushroom farming, and the umpire crosses his arms like the Monsignor. It's going to be very important for Seattle to parry away these early attacks. There's not much of a win to speak of, but San Francisco is on the attack here.
And the ball gets knocked into space. Coming out for it is Nicole McKenzie, who gets there. Her kick is smothered. In goes Peterson, who tried to tap it on. Julie Marks said, here's the don't argue. Gave it off to Jessica Estrada. Went back to Marks. Went back to McKenzie. McKenzie on the right boot, looking for the Iron Maidens' first goal, and she's got it. Straight through the middle. 6 points there for the San Francisco Iron Maidens. They take an early lead. 1 straight 6 San Francisco's. Seattle yet to score.
And the athleticism of Nicole McKenzie just cutting to the outside, throwing that one onto the left foot. And that's a skill that you kind of have to pick up in USAFL and in Aussie rules football. You have to learn to kick on the run and kick accurately.
And when we talk about a lot of quality midfielders for San Francisco Iron Maiden, surprisingly the name that doesn't get brought up a lot, very underrated Nicole McKenzie.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, everyone focuses on Elise Gallagher, on Bevan English, who of course is injured. Carly Smolak was injured as well. The Iron Maidens have the ball again. Well, let's see how they respond here. As the ball goes in short, it overcooks Lutz, and the ball goes down. They're able to whip it out. Marion Dickinson in the headband for the Grizzlies, and she is stood up by Panda Wynn and the aforementioned Elise Gallagher. Ball up will occur center field. The ball is tossed to the heavens. The Ruck go after it. Panda Wynn, and you know what? That's a pattern we're seeing. Panda Wynn, we've seen it many times over the weekend, leading with her knee. You're not allowed to do that because it's a dangerous play.
And April Lewis goes for the long kick. Wanted to go towards true centre half forward. Came off hands. Brent Leone tried to get a hand pass in there. Knocked away by Lewis. In goes Peterson. Couldn't get onto it. Marks goes for the hand pass over the top to Sarah Maguillone. Maguillone now on the right boot. Going long towards centre half forward. Crunch! Goes down Holmes. Trying to go after it. Robin Leslie elects to kick the ball off the carpet. She's got Valerie Barbara Exthelm coming after her. Also got coming at her as April Lewis gave up the hand pass to Gallagher. Got bumped over as she got a kick away. But a mark taken for Grizzlies in the last line of defence. So they'll relieve the pressure. They'll head to the far side of the ground. Not a smart option when you've got Estrada working there, but the ball got past her.
And up the far side now, here is Johnson. Ryan Johnson touches the ball to the ground, doing a great smother by Wynn. She'll stay after the football. She plays soccer. Goes to Leone, the volleyball player from Wayne State University. Oh, she dropped that one. She should have taken it. She handballs it over. There's Savannah Green with a helicopter ball. Godan able to keep it in front of her. She soccers it on to her own advantage outside of 50, and the ball will go out of bounds. And possibly an AFLW, Peter, that might be called as deliberate, but on this occasion, there's a little bit of leniency here. It'll be a ball in.
Yes, we should remind those that the rules that we're playing here are slightly different to what you'd play in the AFLW, where there's last touch out of bounds and 16 aside, etc.
And I think a lot of people will say, hey, these are the rules that should be playing in. Meanwhile, Carr and Alcocer are going back for Seattle. But here's Robin Leslie. Leslie stays with the football. She was very active in the original game between these two teams. And the ball will go in. It's worth mentioning these two teams did meet in pool play. San Francisco got the best of Seattle 15-0. But Seattle, who got blown out by the Iron Maidens last year, playing a lot better here in this game.
And these two teams also cross paths once a year in the Western Regional Tournament. As the kick is long out of defence, trying to take a grab here on the second bite is Ryan Johnson. Elects to play on quickly, moves it up the line, but only to go out of bounds in the full. Just to explain the difference, if you kick the ball out of bounds without it being touched by anyone, it's out in the full. Your opposition gets a free kick. If you kick it out, but it's touched before the line, or the ball just dribbles along the line and someone taps it out, then it's called a boundary throw, and the umpire throws the ball back in over his head.
And Gaudan is able to knock it forward, but right to Estrada, steps away from Johnson, has supporting Gallagher, but not the greatest handball, and that is going to be a free kick, and it's going to be high contact, so you can't make contact anywhere from the top of the shoulders up, and Elise Gallagher will go back. Her sister Danielle plays for the New York Magpies. She'll go all the way back. Now she's 55 meters from goal. She puts that one in short. Here's Savannah Green. Green with a stabby kick towards goal. It's off to the left side, and it has gone through for a point. So a kick between one of the goal posts in the middle, one of the behind posts on the side, yields it behind. That's 1 point. On the Cooper scoreboard, San Francisco 1-1-7, and it's Seattle yet to score.
As we wait for Valerie Barber Exthelm to bring the ball back into play. She goes on the right boot. She goes towards the far side of the ground. Thank you, Mark there. Peterson gets under the, pardon me, that in fact is Dickinson, the captain, who now goes for the Peterson direction, falling short of her, but trying to put the hands in there as Ryan Johnson dropped the football, and the ball went over the boundary line and out of bounds. As we wait for the ball to be thrown in, we're between centre wing and half forward flank for the San Francisco Iron Maidens, attacking the left of your screen. As April Lewis, I think, might have caught the loose finger in the eye there, so she's just taken a step away from play. Estrada goes in to get out a hand pass. Umpire off the ball has resulted in a free kick. There's, of course, a 3-umpire system, and generally the umpire close to the action has control of play, but it doesn't stop the other umpires if they see something the other umpire does by stepping in and making a decision.
It's interesting how that compares to other sports, Peter, because I know basketball, they have 3, and sometimes it's the same thing. Sometimes the trailing official will have a better view of things. So here is a free kick. It'll come in the halfback flank. That's Dickinson who sends that one on, marked by McKenzie. So McKenzie up and about here as they look to the left. Now looking for a lead. Now the players you'll see here, they're going to try almost like a slant route as a wide receiver in gridiron, and it'll be a free kick as that one went out of bounds, centered into the middle, looking for Allison Leonard there, number 20, picked up there by Kari Koo, and the ball is by Corey Howe, and the ball is in there, and the umpire locks in there. He says the ball is frozen in there, stuck in a mud somewhere in the swamps of Racine, Wisconsin. So the ball will go back up high. Lewis again versus Wynn, and again Wynn may have gotten away with getting her knee up high, and going forward is Johnson. Amanda Bowe, who kicked both goals, the number 00 in that win over Denver. It comes through, it skips through. Wynn able to keep in front. Rather, it was Estrada, but it's picked up by Peterson. She was able to step out of the tackle and send that one long for Seattle.
And the markers dropped there at centre half back. A hurry kick off the ground courtesy of Fernandez, who went charging through. McKenzie goes in to pick up the football. Got to get away there from the tagger, and Hamilton kicks it long. In goes Holmes, who managed to get the fist in there to get it away from Millie Bruce. Holmes chasing after the football. Does have support there, and that support works out well. And Alcosa, who gets it across to Holmes, who's got 2 to beat. Got to kick away before being tackled. Gained about 30 metres up the line, right in front of our broadcast position. Coming in to pick it up is Caitlin Lance, who got on the left boot. Got a bump afterwards. Holmes parks herself underneath the football and takes a calming mark. 7 plays 1. That is San Francisco leading Seattle. Seattle wearing the black and green. In the orange, blue and grey is the San Francisco Iron Maidens. Is taking a mark right underneath us is Sarah Maguillon.
Sarah Maguillon, who now lives in Salt Lake City. She sends that one forward. One-on-one contest. Great spoil by Carr on Leslie. Just like Tracy Chapman, Seattle's got a fast car, and that one is a throw. Absolutely. You're not allowed to scoop the ball. You're not allowed to propel it with an open hand unless it's like slapped downwards. So here is Barbara Axthelm looking for Bowe. Marks does a good job to spoil, looking for Maguillon, but picked up there by Olivia Lewis. And now here back the other way comes Al Koser. Good job to save it there. Looked like a hockey goalie. She looked like Arthur's Urbe did McKenzie, but then send that one into the middle. Seattle trailing 7-0, trying to push it forward. McKenzie is there to get it the heck out of there. She sends it up to the far wing position, and it was a big collision by Peterson and by Gallagher. Peterson able to stay with it, leaning into the player, into Gallagher, and the ball tumbles out of bounds. Cooper scoreboard, San Francisco, 1 goal, 1 behind. That's 7 points. Seattle, you have to score.
And just to remind those that look at the score go 1-1-7, what does that mean? It's simple. The goal, you just times by 6. The points are worth 1 point, and that's how you get your total score, by putting them together. As the ball's on the far side of the ground, Nicole McKenzie tried to slap it along the carpet. Here's the hurry kick for the Iron Maidens, wanting to come back inboard. Peterson comes charging her way through, tries to tap it to the advantage of Holmes, went through her legs, got out the back. Lutz now put it on the left boot, goes up the wing position, trying to find Millie Bruce, but getting there is Valerie Barber Axthelm, who accidentally kicked on her own player, and Olivia Lewis. Ball spills out now to Amelia Carr. Carr on the left boot, kicks around the corner. Now, did it go on the full, or was it touched before it went out? No, it managed to stay in play. It was close against the boundary line until Ryan Johnson had her kick smothered and over and out.
Boundary throw in directly across from us. And, of course, there's that rule in AFLW, Peter, where it's last touch out of bounds in that particular league. Just like most sports, the other team gets possession of the ball. It does change the game a little bit. So here is, I guess that's a saying I don't like it. But anyway, the ball comes back in the play directly across from us. And now with the football is Seattle as Valerie Barber-Axthelm pumps it forward. McKenzie, and she right now is the leading candidate for best on ground. So here is Nicole McKenzie.
I'd even go as far as saying MVP of the tournament for Division 1.
Well, we'll see what happens. There have been a lot of good performances across the way here, this 6-team tournament. As the ball gets knocked down by Lewis, Leslie is there. She's thrown to the ground by Carr, and they're saying she didn't have possession first. You must have possession of the football before you were tackled. She didn't have clean possession. She was taken to the ground. Free kick for Robin Leslie.
And she does. She plays on very quickly. Going for the spoil from behind was Gordon, close towards the boundary line, and it will now go over and out. You mentioned before about Sarah Maguillon now living in Salt Lake City, Utah. Of course, we'd love to see a club start up there, and if you want more details about how to join a club or even start a club, go to USAFL.com.
Yep, you'll have a team list, of course. There's teams there 42 clubs across the country that are just waiting for you to join, either as a player, as a spectator, and of course they need lots of volunteers. Ball comes spinning back in the play directly across from us. We got the mateship match going on with players from, we have folks from the American and Australian military, as well as Matthew Dellavedoya go over there as well from the Milwaukee Bucks. This is one thing we've had, Peter, is a lot of people come out to this national championship.
And as the ball goes out of bounds, we should mention one famous name that's here, of course, is Erin Phillips, WNBA basketballer, now on the staff with the Dallas Wings. She, of course, is a playing captain coach with the Adelaide Crows in the AFLW competition.
And led them to that first championship. And a teammate of hers, Sarah Perkins, is also here as well. I get them confused. No, Sarah Perkins is here. And let me tell you, two very amazing people, both on the field and off of it. They are absolutely fantastic.
As Holmes goes up the line now, just came off. Now Leslie tried to kick it on the right boot, wants to go inside 50. Is that a mark? No, it's ball from behind by Alcosa. She did well, works it close towards the boundary line. Won't go out. Brett Brower chasing after the football, and she sees the ball over and out. And great to see Brett Brower back after suffering a pretty nasty injury in the International Cup last year in Melbourne.
Yeah, she went in for a ball, and there was another player from the Canadian team coming in and went right into the hip region, and she was down for about 45 minutes. They took her to hospital. She did miss last year's national. She is back. That's great to see. She lives in Tampa. There is no USAFL team in Tampa, so she does train on her own. There are a number of players down there that still play footy that she trains with. So meanwhile, this will be a free kick and a shot for goal here.
For the aforementioned Brett Brower.
By Brett Brower, originally from Zeeland, Michigan, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump across the lake here. The kick is on the way, looking for another goal, and the goal umpire says that's 1 point. So another tick on the Coopers scoreboard. It's now an 8-point difference. San Francisco 1 goal, 2 behinds. That's 8 points. Seattle, you have to score.
As Valerie Barber-Ekstams to bring the ball back in. She was named the player of the tour for the USA Liberty. That's the women's development side that toured Australia last year. Her kick out from full back, though, is intercepted by Sarah Maguillon. She has it right on the 50-metre arc. Decides to kick the ball, looking for a leader. Millie Bruce put the hand up in the air, went out the back door, charging the way through Brower, gave it off down to Millie Bruce, who has a shot at goal and gets the second one for the San Francisco Iron Maidens. They go to 2-2-14. They lead Seattle, no score.
And Millie the Magnificent burns another opponent as she was able to get free, as you can see on the replay. The idea here in Aussie rules football, always make yourself an option. Always run in packs. Always be open. If you're standing by yourself, try and get free, and she did that just there, textbook.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing, and it happens a lot to a lot of new players that play the game, men or women. They get sucked into running into the contest where the ball is, and you've got to have that discipline to let your teammates do it, and you stay off the side of the pack waiting for it to pop out.
Ball back in the play now. It is 14-0, and San Francisco, well, they looked good, the goods here, and right now, as that one is holding off the ball, it must be said over the last 2 seasons when they have won the national championship, their regular season has been rather nondescript. They failed to win the Western Regionals each of the last 2 seasons, and in fact, they send that one on. Send that one on is Marks, and then just getting it away, handballed into the middle now. There is Brower who picks it up, and then send that one in long, looking for Sherman. That one will roll and roll and roll. Over to get to it now is Holmes, and Holmes will be pushed in the back. It's called on Sherman. 14-0. As we said, they've had unspectacular seasons. They've had injuries. We mentioned the injury to English. We mentioned the injury to Smolak. But all the same, they always seem to show up on National Sunday.
Yeah, so we said their good luck charm is when they seem to lose the Western Regional Tournament. They end up turning around to win the Nationals.
Yep.
As the ball is now being given to April Lewis of the Seattle Grizzlies. She gives it actually back to the free kick to Valerie Barber-Ekstrom, who actually also plays Gaelic football. And a number of players that recruited to Aussie rules, not in Australia, but here in the US, actually cross over from the Irish sport of Gaelic football.
In fact, Seattle and Denver sent full sides, almost full sides, to the national championships in Philadelphia this Labor Day weekend.
And as the ball is kicked in the middle of the ground, Sarah Maguillon looks to create the turnover. She's under all kinds of pressure. She was ripped down by Leonard. Now here's an opportunity for Grizzlies. Coming away is Olivia Lewis. She goes inside 50. Juggling. Mark taken there in the back line. And just rolling over and getting up is the player they call Mama, Julie Marks, president of the Golden Gate Football.
She is the mama bear of this side, and let me tell you, she is as dedicated as they come to the growth of this sport. She looks out to the left side. Maggie Owen dropped it. Paddled forward there by Allison Leonard. It's more on her in a second. She gets free, and that one is steered on by Green. Now has the football. Green with a long handball. That was from Lutz. And then, that could have been a throw. And then taken down off the football was Carr by Maggie Owen. That's okay. And then, oh, wow, there's a big collision there. But thankfully it wasn't heads. As the ball comes out to the near side, it handcuffs Kepron. And now here they come trying to clear it out. That's a wounded duck of a ball. It drops in front of Savannah Green, and we'll have a boundary throw in right in front of myself and Peter Holden here on ESPN3.
And nearly took out our boundary rider, Gil Griffin, in the process as we wait for the ball to be thrown back into play. April Lewis versus Sarah Margaret Leone in this contest. One out by April Lewis. Had to try and shred the tackle. Got to her teammate who was immediately caught by Nicole McKenzie. McKenzie goes in courtesy of the shepherding work of Jessica Estrada. Goes for the hand pass over the top. She wants to try and see if she can run on the ball. Brown tries to hold the football up for her. Umpire blows the whistle and says in the back, free kick going the way of the 22 there. In fact, it's Courtney Sherman. Sherman now with the football, has Brower leading. Sherman looking for the Brower lead. Put the hands in there. Kosa not in the way. Holmes chasing after the football. Can't quite get there. McKenzie wants to get her hands in the pack. In goes Brett Brower as well. Coming in over the top is Goyden. Comes out to April Lewis, who had to try and shrug the tackle. Got it by hands to Dickinson. Dickinson now moved towards the half-back flank. Overrunning the football. Margaret Leone has to go in. She got caught but got the hand pass away. Umpire said held after she got rid of the football. And that means it's a free kick to the San Francisco Iron Maidens.
A lot of times that's momentum, Peter. You're going for the tackle. You're going for the ball, and the player is just too quick. Ball pumped inside 50, dropped by Leslie. Godana's in there as well. Everyone down mushroom farming, and we will have a ball up in front as Brett Brower once again. We said from Zeeland, Michigan, I am informed by Gil Griffin that Hall of Fame baseball pitcher Jim Kitty Cott is also from Zeeland, Michigan. As now back the other way, they look backwards. It's a three-dimensional game, Aussie rules football, looking for Maggie Owen. Holmes kept it in front of her. Godana's there, and so too is Brower in front. Everyone down again, and the umpire crosses himself like the first rabbi of Aussie rules football, L'chaim, and we will have a ball up right in front.
Bless you, son, as the ball is now in dispute as the siren sounds, and that will indicate half-time here at the Score Complex in Racine, Wisconsin, and that is a pretty handy 14-0 lead for San Francisco. We've seen them do this many a time. I think back 2 years to that game in Sarasota, Florida. Have that halftime lead, stack the back line, and hold on.
Yeah, and that's what it is. They don't have much of a wind as they have in previous years, but the weather may affect the second half. Let's see how the numbers turned out. Gil, what do you got for stats?
Well, looking at the stats, Brian, inside 50s would really be the key here. San Francisco went inside 50 14 times to Seattle going inside 50 only twice, really attesting to San Francisco's ability to win the ball out of clearances in the middle and to really lock it in their forward 50 to take advantage of those opportunities that they have. They're also outmarking Seattle 9-5, and the free kicks are pretty even, so can't say that the umpires have been favoring one team or another, but San Francisco obviously the dominant team so far.
And the one thing that's caught my eye about San Francisco is their structure as well. Whenever you've got Seattle trying to come out of the back line, you've got at least 3 San Francisco players in a row that are not being manned up by Seattle players. That's allowing them to send the ball back in.
Second half, when we come back, you're watching the 2018 USAFL National Championships here on ESPN3.
0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Introducing the Genesis G70.
I'm always going to be a maker, and I think a company is the coolest thing you can build. I'm Adam, and I make robots. You never know when inspiration is going to strike. So I take my Surface Pro everywhere. Part of an entrepreneur's job is to get stuff done. I like to do like 4 things at once. The new Surface Pro can handle all of my programs. I can paint, I can mold, I can code. I have it on all the time. It's fantastic. We get to build toys for kids and change the world. It's a big deal.
Back here at the Score Complex in Racine, Wisconsin, the Women's Division I National Championship for Australian football. The score is San Francisco 14, Seattle nothing. Now, there is a lot of difference between the men's game and the women's game, and Gil Griffin, our sideline reporter, has more on that.
Yeah, one thing, Brian, that's really important is the ability to win the ball out of the middle, as San Francisco is doing. Now, because the women can't kick as far as the men do, it takes longer to string together a series of kicks or handballs to move into scoring range. So San Francisco really playing it well, clearing it out of the middle, and dominating that way so that they can lock the ball in their forward 50, essentially turning it into more of a half field game, sort of like in basketball playing a half court, the way that they manage their players.
And thank you very much, Gil. And I'll tell you what, Peter, what we're seeing here, what we've seen across the tournament is that the short game is very important. As we saw running in packs, that's what led to that one goal by Millie Bruce. It's all about making yourself an option and especially being aware of how all the other players go.
We talk about KPIs, what coaches like to keep. Essentially, when you get to the men's game, the KPI that they tell the players at their quarter time or half-time breaks, they talk about, this is the number of tackles we laid for this quarter. This is what we're aiming for the next quarter. Let's lay this many tackles. That's all about pressure and turning the ball over because they have the longer kick. In the women's game, it's actually more about the marks. How many marks can we take? Because the marks signify that you've got control of the ball and you're linking up well down the ground.
Indeed, and that's the thing. There's a lot of statistics involved in this game. If you're a fan of like baseball statistics, it's kind of like that. There's always things that like you say, they're key performance indicators of KPI.
And for Americans watching for the first time and thinking, what's a mark again? Essentially, it's a catch.
Exactly. The ball is kicked. It's got to travel 15 meters or more. Now, it has to be caught cleanly. It can't be touched by other players. You can tap it to yourself, but it's got to be caught on the fly.
And if 2 go up at the same time for it, then it's paid to the person in front.
Exactly. Well, all is in readiness here. Will San Francisco get their three-peat, or will we see something special from the Seattle Grizzlies as the players are in position, the umpire is in position. So San Francisco, they've been involved with Denver over the last 4 seasons in the top 2, last 5 seasons going all the way back to 2013. Now the men, the Golden Gate Rouge, you'll see them coming up next in the final game of the day against the Austin Pros in the Division I Grand Final. The umpire holds the spirit of this great game aloft. Second half action. Peter Holden gets us underway.
Umpire throws the ball high in the air. Patton Nguyen versus Lewis. Lewis wins the tap down but goes to her defensive side. Valerie Barber-Ekstrom keeps charging off centre half back. Lost the football. Went back, got it again. May have got claimed high. The umpire said no. Play on. Let it goes in there. Got it out to Amelia Carr. Then she managed to get it going sideways to Dickinson. Goes for a bit of a run. Thought about the bounce. Does bounce. Now gets brought down to ground magnificently by Sarah Maguillon. And in the great signature of sportsmanship says, I've tackled you, but I'm going to help you back up.
And Sarah Maguillon, another player with a golden heart on and off the field as well. The 2 number 11s, Johnson and Gallagher. Gallagher wins it. She bootlegs around, throws that one onto the left. Ill-advised, however, and it's marked by Alessandra Alcocer. She'll stand in the true center half back position. That'll bring some rain. The crowd forms underneath of it. Howe able to knock that one forward, looking for Dickinson. Careens off her shins. Big tackle by Howe, but she was caught too high. Again, you can't go over the shoulders or make head contact, so a free contact to the lady they call Mags. Sarah Maguillon has represented the U.S. in 2015 and in 2017. Goes up high. Nice mark by Amelia Carr, whose name we're also going to see on that Freedom Honor Roll soon. She looks out to the wing position commentary side where it's marked by Dickinson, who looks to go forward.
Dickinson looks for her options, gets on the right boot, goes long towards the half-forward position. Umpire signals there was a push in the pack, and that will be a free kick. Which way is he signalling? He's saying it'll be for the San Francisco Iron Maidens, and Nicole McKenzie will get another position. The infringement against Amanda Bowe. She looks further afield for some options. Now gets on the right. Spiral kick. Carr from behind. Gets the punch. Coming through there is Jessica Estrada. Kicks it off the side of the boot. 1-2 bounces. Holmes charging out. Millie Bruce on a hammer. The ball goes over the boundary line and out of bounds. Should just quickly point out for a moment that obviously we're playing for the Division 1 title. In the Women's Division 2 title, the Sacramento Suns, teaming up with players from the Montreal Angels, took out Division 2.
And some very good players on that side. Of course, Valerie Moreau, who also happens to play for the Essendon Bombers of VFLW. And I'll tell you what, she should be drafted in AFLW when that happens next weekend. Long handball back from Manea to Gallagher, and just able to get, she heard the footsteps but took the mark anyway. That's Stephanie Peterson, one of the rookies of the Seattle team, who sends a deep drop punt pretty long. Bo, who had those 2 goals, has been shut out so far. Picking that one up and going into her was for Hernandez, and then that ball was held up. The umpire called play before Lutz was able to extract it.
We should tell for people of the Bay Area that are watching, as we just have a look here on ESPN, the ball is thrown high in the air with a hurry kick away by Margaret Leone, close to the boundary line. In goes Sarah Magillon, stripped of the football. Johnson gets flipped over there by the player, and the umpire still was a free kick going to the Iron Maidens. We should point out to people in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Iron Maidens is the women's side. The men's side is the Golden Gate Roos. They're coming up next in the Division 1 men's grand final. They are part of the same club, the same league. They play Metro games, which is a smaller version Aussie rules games, called the Golden Gate AFL. And if you go to USAFL.com, you can find out more about their club. They're about 100 people strong, which is fantastic to have that amount of membership in one club in the United States.
Sarah Magillon just getting up. It was worth mentioning, Pete, that there's a lot. We have 42 clubs. They're all shapes and sizes. Some of them big, like the Golden Gate Roos, some of them smaller. And I'll say this, Seattle was, well, they were on life support a couple of years ago on both sides. And Valerie Barber-Axtell, who just kicked the football, is the main reason why Seattle has a team in the women's side. It is marked by Nicole Kepron, 40 meters out. She sends that, oh, that's a pretty good kick. It's going to be short. Flying in there, but no mark taken. Handball back. Kepron will get a second chance. No, she won't, as Leone took her down, and she is Gone gone. Great tackle in there by Meg Leone. And it's worth mentioning, Meg Leone was a rookie in 2015. She sort of stepped up trial by fire, especially through injuries both in the Iron Maidens and on the Freedom side.
Gallagher tried to go after the football, couldn't get there. Peterson did try to fight her way through, but the ball was trapped to her, and the umpire will call for a ball up. The Seattle side also has men's and women's as part of the Grizzlies, which we should point out. It's part of a strong northwest area. You've also got the Portland club there with the Sockeyes and the Steelheads. Now trying to get the football there is Dickinson. She's immediately put into the ground, and the umpire says going nowhere and will call for a ball up. One thing I'm noticing so far, predominantly the play going to the left-hand side opposed to the goals we saw going to the right in the men's.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it's weird how that happens. But again, not much of a breeze to speak of. It is getting a little bit colder, though, but not as cold as it was yesterday, that's for sure. So Mother Nature taking good care of us here in Racine, Wisconsin. Ball on the far side, Win. Long handball up over the top, looks for Leone. Sends that one deep, one-on-one contest, as Gaudin couldn't get to it. And Carr tried to knock that one forward. Carr knocked it back, and here comes Valerie Barber-Axtell from Portland, believe it or not, sends that one forward, and trying to spend the cookies there was Manea, but she stays on Hal's hammer, and then trying to throw in a Shepherd was Marks, but it's Johnson who tries to soccer it on to her own advantage. The problem was there was 4 Iron Maidens there. Here's a 1-2, Lutz, Magillon, Lutz, but sending that one in with no real purpose of that, as Valerie Barber-Axtell sends it back inside 50 for the Grizz.
And a long bomb, oh, crunch of bodies as they all hit the deck. Marks gets up going, what planet am I on? Going in there is Sarah Magillon. She spilted, got the football back, went with a hurried hand pass. Gallagher charges the way through, says, don't argue with me. Then gets on the right boot, goes towards the half-forward flank position. Bowled over a few, including Holmes. Carr waiting out the back. Ball got kicked away from her by Millie Bruce. Ball close towards the boundary line. Coming in and getting brought down was Savannah Green. Was it high? The umpire says indeed it was. You may now place your head back on your neck. And that is a free kick to the Iron Maidens.
Who ordered the decapitation? Anybody? Well, here comes Magillon, who grubs that one inside 50. Brower and that one, well, someone alert the Racine Zoo, because I just saw another shankopotamus.
I tell you one thing, as much as a couple of players get caught high, and we talked about Brett Brower's injury earlier, you ask any of the women after a game, they go, that was fun.
That's you ask some players, they just want to hit somebody. That's it. So the ball comes spinning back into play. One more goal might seal the deal, Leslie, but it was stopped by Dickinson. It's on the doorstep. She should just try and run that one through, and
a free kick.
Wow, a free kick, and it will come right in front, and it will be, I believe that is Savannah Green, number 24.
Second time she's been caught high in about 30 seconds. It's just everyone's to pull in her ponytail or something. I don't know.
I don't know, but Savvy Green, who went to the Freedom Camp in August in Colorado. Ladies and gentlemen, bang. And San Francisco has extended the lead. 3 goals, 2 behinds, 20 points. Seattle, no score. And the way this game is going, Pete, that might just be enough for the Iron Maidens.
Yeah, it's really going to take a lot for Seattle to bring this one back. Seattle aren't really the side like, say, a Minnesota, who will use the central corridor through a player like Paige Kicker and just bomb it straight down the guts and get it going quickly and get quick goals. It's one of those sides. Seattle are more of a grind them into the ground type of side. The problem is because they're short today on players, they don't have an interchange bench, they just can't keep going with that ferociousness against a side that's got a stacked midfield, stacked talent like San Francisco.
Ball back in the air, underway again. Leonard, who missed all of 2017. Great to have her back after that knee injury. Here comes Seattle with a sortie forward, but it's Hernandez who makes the stop, and she finds McKenzie. Been a little quieter in the second half. Nicole McKenzie goes out to the near side. Julie Marks out into open spaces, and meanwhile it's a foot race as Johnson gave a little shove and got away from Maguione, sends that one back from whence it came, and there's Maggie. In against Kepron, trying to body her off the ball. That's legal, and over the top as wow, what a great set of moves by McKenzie. That will drop in. looking for Barbara Axthelm, and then cleared out and marked by Corey, who I've really been impressed with her over the last 2 games.
Who? Corey, who?
How?
Now, thank you very much. The ball now goes towards the half-forward flank. Sarah Maguione goes in there, gets the hand pass away. Hurry kick by the San Francisco Iron Maidens to Jessica Estrada, who kicked the first goal of the grand final last year against Denver. Keeps the ball in front of herself. Soccer skill styles. Amelia Carr going with her. Estrada tries to go with the hand pass over the back of the head. Ball being tapped close to the boundary line by Dickinson. Keeps control of it. Try to get it going to Johnson. Lost control. Now goes in. McKenzie got it across to Gallagher. Dribbles the kick forward. Only as far as Amelia Carr. Carr on the right boot. Goes up towards the half-forward play position. Umpire says no, 15. You got to play on. That's surely high. No, calls play on again. He's thrown away the whistle. Johnson now tries to get in the direction of Hamilton. Stripped of the football on that occasion by Mania. Now goes it across to Lutz. Lutz ran into heavy traffic. In comes Amelia Carr. Put on the left boot. Sarah Maguione went rejected. In goes Carr. And the umpire says, you cop one over the shoulder. You shall have a free kick. And in fact, pointed the other way, then back the other way. And now he realised it's actually Sarah Maguione that should have the free kick.
Now, if you've never seen Aussie rules football before, it's a little bit different than in most sports. They point to the defensive side as opposed to the way that the ball is going. So that's why, even though San Francisco is going to the right, he pointed to our left. And holding the ball is called as Brett Brower was claimed. And Dominique Gaudin will take the free kick wearing the red skull cap. So here is Gaudin, or check that. That is given to Stephanie Peterson. So Peterson with the ball in between the left wing and left half back position. Sends that one into the middle of the ground. Knocked down there. Tegan Hamilton, who's been relatively quiet today, handballs it into the middle of the ground. Going after it is Dickinson. Dickinson goes back. Peterson sends that one with a deft kick going forward. Picked up at Queen Bowles Howe and going forward again. And now the defense, Fernandez, has to come up. She's able to get it free. It's a worm-burning, finger-breaking mongrel kick, and then picked up, trying to get it out of there as Lutz holds her up, and she says, I'll take that, thank you, and now sends it up to the wing position as one-on-one contest. Great individual effort by Amelia Carr, but an even better one by Jessica Estrada, and the ball goes out of Two amazing athletes converging there for both sides.
And just a quick little note, Amelia, it looks like Jessica Estrada's got a little bit of tissue up her nose, probably to stop any bleeding, because there is a blood rule, obviously, in this sport. If you're bleeding at all or there's blood on your jumper, you actually have to go off the ground. You can be replaced, and you have to change that jumper with blood on it. As the kick is now going towards the half-forward flank position, trying to chase after it is McKenzie. McKenzie gets absolutely crunched on the way through by Howe, and the umpire says, you got her in the back, and therefore it's a free kick. McKenzie gets up, going, oh, geez, it's going to hurt in the morning. And she will now go back and have her resulting free kick. Half-back flank. At the moment, it's the San Francisco Iron Maidens 3-2-20. They lead the Seattle Grizzlies, no score.
Running out of time of the Grizzlies, and I'll tell you what, win, lose, or draw as Leone took the mark. Now they're just setting up the mark right now. The defender can't go ahead of where in this case, the ball was caught. Otherwise, it'll be a further penalty. And Johnson gets up and takes the mark. Here's Ryan Johnson very quietly putting together a pretty good resume for the national team and having a pretty good weekend. A lot of players screaming her name. That probably was ill-advised, but knocking it forward there is Estrada. Here is Lutz. That was a borderline throw, maybe not. Ball goes to ground, and the umpire says that's a push in the back. You got to be very, very careful when you pile in there like that, especially when players are prostrate. So the field prostrate like that. So it's Jessica One, the lady they call Scoops, who goes out to the near side.
And she puts in the direction of Sarah Maguillon, who will do the spoiling work. Valerie Barber just boots it long, but straight down the throat of Elise Gallagher. And she says, thank you very much, I'll take that. She was the MVP in the grand final last year against the Denver Lady Bulldogs at San Diego. She looks further afield, decides to give the big wind-up, gets on the right boot, it's long and it's high. Carr wants to park herself underneath it. In came Estrada, claims it. Ooh, even the Carr's arguing that, and I think I agree with her. I thought Carr had a hand on it momentarily, but the umpire gives the benefit of the doubt to Jessica Estrada, who wisely kills the clock. 6 and a bit minutes to go until the full-time hooter. San Francisco in the box seat, goes to find Brett Brower, who takes the mark. Brown will go back, performing very well in that position. In replace of Carly Smolak, as we said, who had that injury at the start of the year and has been unable to come to the Nationals this year. Delivers perfectly right onto the chest of Courtney Sherman. Now, this will test her, though. She's thinking about having a shot from 45 metres out.
Sherman at the edge of her reality. Her husband's about to play for a Division I title in his own right. Of course, Kyle Manley Johnson playing for the Golden Gate Roos. That one is sent in. It's marked. Oh, my goodness. How did she mark that ball to Jess Estrada? Well, the answer to that question is she's Jess Estrada. And she does Jess Estrada things.
And our congratulations through the year, by the way, to Jessica, who got married just a couple of months ago.
She and her husband, Julian, just got married. And Julian goes to Wharton, which is in Philadelphia, so that's a pretty good thing. Sends that one on the way. Looks pretty good off the boot. Did it make the distance? No, it's a goal square scramble. And there it is, Green. Did Green sneak it in? Or did it go across the face? No, it went way across the face. Wow, that took some talent. And now we'll have a boundary throw. And as umpire Jeff Person will heave the ball back into play. And up in the air, going to get it, knocked forward, stayed with the football, and now out of the back again goes Holmes, who's had a pretty good game on defense. One-on-one contest now as Johnson and Maguillon contested in front of the Cooper's Beer Tent, where a very large crowd is growing. And let me tell you, when you see the men's grand final, that's going to get even bigger in that pocket.
And importantly, even louder.
Yes.
As the kick around the corner there by Margaret Leone tries to put it to the advantage of Savannah Green, who does the shepherding work. Now getting in there, Sarah Maguillon trying to kick it around the corner. Alcosa has to go in and get the football. She's being harassed. Got the hurry kick away, but she's put it out of bounds and almost into the beer tent. Other teams that performed in Division 1 this year, as we said, knocked out in the semi-finals, were the 6-time national champions, the Denver Lady Bulldogs and the Minnesota Freeze. For them, this is pretty much close to them being in the next state. And also the New York Magpies and Portland Sockeyes. The Portland Sockeyes making their debut in Division 1 this year.
Yeah, and they did a fine job this year. And, of course, they're another team, much like Seattle, that has grown up very quickly. A free kick has been awarded to Brett Brower. There hasn't been a score in a while. It's still 20-0, but a goal here would be the ribbon on the gift. That is a three-peat. Brett Brower strides forward from 35 meters out. The kick starts left. It stays left. It's still in play, and it's whacked out of there by Dickinson, who now will chase after her own crumbs. She has not given up all weekend. She has the energy efficiency of a hybrid car, and now she'll send that one up the far side. What can they do here in transition? Well, That's a good question. The ball is on that far side. It squirts up high in the air, and we have a whistle. It's a free kick, and Seattle trying to at least get a consolation, something or other, out of this game.
It'd be nice if they can get a goal on the board to be able to say they kick one in the grand final and hope that they build on that the next year. Leonard now got it over the top. Dickinson goes for a run on the right boot. Goes inside 50. It's Pagan's Paddock. It's a very open forward line back there, but sweeping by is Rutkin, who was under pressure and tried to get her kick away. Chasing after us there is Olivia Lewis. She's going to try and hold it up with support from Leonard, and now she's all wrapped up, and the umpire is going to call for another ball up. Half forward flank. We've got 3 minutes to go. Just a little bit unusual here in the USAFL compared to normal Aussie rules matches. This is played over 2 halves of 20 minutes with no time on. A normal Aussie rules game is a 4 quarters, 20 minutes plus injury time.
Well, the fact that every team, we have 45 teams here across 7 divisions here, so we got to get the games in relatively quickly.
And that makes it the biggest Australian rules football tournament in the world.
Yes, it does. Even you, Australia, we're bigger than you. Meanwhile, back the other way and straight into the middle of the ground. Seattle showing a lot of pluck. That one goes inside. It skips by, and Maggie Owen gets it back to Fernandez, who's done a very good job in fullback. Hasn't been terribly busy, but when she's been called upon, she's been done well. And it skips by one player, and Alcocer, or rather that's Howe, is held up, and we will have a ball up in the center back pocket. Other winners today, Peter mentioned that the Division II women's title were Sacramento teamed up with Montreal. The Philadelphia Hawks won the Division III grand final, defeating the Ohio Valley River Rats, and the Minnesota Freeze winners over the Portland Steelheads to take home the men's Division II. Remember, after this game, don't go anywhere because we have the Division I grand final between Golden Gate and Austin.
As we wait for Tegan Hamilton to take her kick, she goes short, tried to acknowledge a lead. Mackenzie drops across and takes a mark. Now she gets on the right boot. Oof. Good spoil from behind. The umpire says that one is reaching over the top in the back. Free kick going the way of Seattle. You mentioned about those winners so far in the men's division. Both of them have a female presence. The Philadelphia Hawks have women, and they teamed up today with one of the other sides in Division 2. And Minnesota Freeze have a women's side. So the motto of the story, if you want to be good in men's football, also have a women's side as well.
And I'll say this, Peter, I think, listen, the growth of the men's game is very important, but the growth will always be there. We need more women. We need more hearts beating for this game. Here we go, out of the back. It's Wynn, or rather Estrada, who's gone into the defense. Nice mark by Brower, who didn't even have to leave her feet. She'll send it out to the far side. Mackenzie takes the mark and will play on, and now Johnson's got to get on her horse. She throws that one on to the right, and Carr had to go back to get to it. That one went over the top, not called. Check that. That's going to be Tomes. As here comes Carr, who flies in there like a house on fire and dropping that one. And that's going to be improper disposal as she just dropped the footy there, and it'll be a free kick. Leonard has the football. She's in the center half back position for Seattle as we are in the waning moments here. Still 20-0 San Francisco. In fact, 45 seconds to go. A three-peat is imminent.
And here goes Jessica Estrada. Goes for the hand pass to Nicole Mackenzie. Had to try and shrug off the tackle from Peterson. Mackenzie spins around in a circle. Had to get rid of a couple of them. Now goes for the hand pass backwards to Stull Lane. Stull Lane on the right boot. Awkward bouncing football. Just dribbles inside 50. Holmes comes out to meet the football. Manages to shrug them off. Gives it to Lewis. Lewis in all kinds of trouble. Mark's coming at her, and she is Gone gone. Julia Marks has it as we count down the clock to the full-time siren.
And this will be another sweet moment for the San Francisco Iron Maidens, building their club, as Peter said, more than 100 people in total between men's and women's. Last year, they became the first team to win the men's and women's Division I, and they have become the third team in USAFL history to three-peat in the women's division, as the San Francisco Iron Maidens are your 2018 USAFL Women's Division I champions. The final score, the San Francisco Iron Maidens, 3 goals, 2 behinds, 20 points. Seattle, no score. Of course, congratulations to San Francisco, but Seattle played out of their mind this weekend, and no matter what happens, they're going to get a runners-up medal, and that's something to treasure.
I'm just having a look at some of the better players today. Jessica Estrada playing a midfield role instead of a forward role has been sensational today. Nicole Mackenzie, absolutely outstanding as she's been all tournament. Elise Gallagher again stands up in the grand final. And how About the work on the wing of Sarah Maguillon, just going and going and going again, like a workhorse. Fantastic effort. Holmes was good in defence, I felt, for the Seattle Grizzlies. But Axtone tried to get some kicks away. April Lewis battled hard in the rack. So did Dixon. But just in the end, there was just too much quality from San Francisco for Seattle to try and battle.
And Seattle, of course, they were down to 15 players, and they fought their best as they can. Gil's got some stats for us. Gil, what do you got in the final analysis of this game?
Well, in the final analysis, inside 50s really told the whole story of the match, with San Francisco going inside 50 35 times to looking at the other side. Seattle went in only 13 times. Their inside 50 count, Seattle's improved. They got the ball in their forward 50 a lot more in the second half, but just not enough, as San Francisco just too good today.
Absolutely, Gil. And you know what? San Francisco, the cream rises to the top. And as we said, again, another indescript season, and they've shown up on this weekend. They've won 4 in a row. They have now won 12 games at the USAFL Nationals in a row. They have not lost since the final game of the 2015 season. That's going to do it for this particular game as we take a look at these highlights, Peter.
And as you see, Jessica Estrada, beautiful spin and turnaround. What a fantastic game. Congratulations, San Francisco Iron Maidens, 3 times champions.
We'll be back for the Division I Grand Final right after this here on ESPN 3.
You don't need a major league swing, a Cy Young arm,
or a Gold Glove.
Just a desire. The